Hello and welcome. Thank you all for giving up your lunchtime. Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Cairns and I'm the Head of Enrolments here at Fourth Rev. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you today to this event for the LSE Data Analytics Career Accelerator. I'm going to give a quick overview, a very brief overview of the program before we do get to our very special guest, who we're excited to hear from, who has completed the program but also experienced a great trajectory in his career since doing so. But this is about your decision-making process just as much. So do engage, do feel free to drop questions in the Q&A box down the bottom. We'll certainly use the chat function to drop some invaluable links in there for you along the way. And hopefully we can give you a lot of information that enables you to arrive at what's best for your investment in yourself and acceleration of your career. So firstly, if you haven't spoken with your enrolment advisor already, I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the program as mentioned. The Career Accelerator that we run in collaboration with LSE is 3 years old now, and we have celebrated hundreds of learner outcomes similar to what we're going to do with Joel shortly, and it is with much pride in which we do so. The reason for that is simple. It is the most industry relevant data analytics program available because it is co-created with industry first and foremost. So industry have their input into what skills they are seeking, or advisors on what skills they are seeking in analysts, both with a lens for the now and the near future. And that has evolved into us including a great deal of AI related content into the program via masterclasses and so forth that I'll touch on shortly. Coupled with that is the world-renowned academic underpinnings from the London School of Economics. Combining the both produces a 6-month practical online career accelerator that is made up of 3 courses and 1 live industry-facing project. So firstly, course 1, data analytics for business, in that you'll cover Excel and SQL in particular. That runs for 6 weeks with a week's break. Course 2, data analytics using Python. Again, that runs for 6 weeks with a week's break, before advanced analytics for organizational impact. You'll see even in the course titles, it's not just the technical, which is certainly a big part of the program, but it's also the business application, and that's what industry want. Through the program, obviously, there are no exams, and you instead are empowered to develop a portfolio of evidence that is able to be demonstrated more effectively to employers. Lastly, combining all of the practical learning outcomes from those 3 courses, you're then invited to participate in a live industry-facing project at the end that we'll touch on a bit further with Joel. But the benefit of that is that as a team of 5 or 6 high-caliber learners, you'll meet with one of our industry partners who will present to you a real and big data challenge that they currently experience. As a team, you'll work to apply your learnings from the first 3 courses to come up with innovative and tangible solutions to that scenario, presenting your recommendations and findings back to that client in a consultancy style presentation at the end. The benefit of that is numerous in the sense that it is, as I've said, a really practical way to apply your new skills in a real setting. Secondly, it's brilliant to network more deeply with your fellow learners, sometimes from all different parts of the world, but also leaders of industry. Lastly, when you are going for your new role, if you are, be it an advancement of your existing career or a change of career into a data-related role, it is a much, much more powerful demonstration of your value to tell a story in an interview of how you've worked with the likes of Bank of England or one of our other partners. This is the challenge that they presented. Here are the innovative solutions we came up with, and this is the potential impact. I, as an employer, would be much more impressed with that, for example, and memorize that story much more deeply than I ever would an exam result as a point of difference. So practical, applied in that regard, industry co-created and integrated via the project. You're also supported in numerous ways throughout the Career Accelerator. Firstly, there is the industry-based facilitators that run live sessions, and Joel will give us a snapshot of what they look like shortly. There's also a success manager who's going to cheer your progression and help you with anything course related during the program. And most importantly, there's an executive style career coach and coaching program embedded within the Career Accelerator, enabling you to accelerate your career once again. I'll touch on all of the entry criteria and the like shortly as well. The fees for the program are £8,395, and there are some really, really flexible options enabling access and participation in the program. There is a reduced rate for paying up front of £700. There are 6 and 9 monthly payment plans that are available. And there is a partner that we do have for UK residents and people that meet the finance application in EdAid, who can provide a 24-month payment plan with no fees and no interest associated with any of those plans. Lastly, I guess that includes everything, including the ongoing career coaching that I'll discuss shortly as well. Just a reminder, as we go through the chat with Joel, pop your questions in the Q&A, and there'll be certainly links in the chat function for you to access. But enough of me talking. We're not here to listen so much to me. We're here to discuss a learner's progress and benefit of the program in Joel, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome Joel to the discussion now. Hello, Joel. How are you, and welcome?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm on top of the world. Thank you kindly. Very much looking forward to learning more about your experience and benefit of the program that you perceived. But firstly, I did want to say a big thank you. It's great that you've given your time for the benefit of those in attendance, and I'm sure we'll get to some good questions from the audience as we go through some as well. But first, for me, Joel, if you could give a little bit of background about yourself and your career to date.
Yeah, cool. So I started by doing a sports engineering degree at uni. Graduated from that, and decided that for me personally, the design element of engineering was not what I really enjoyed, but I really enjoyed the analytical part. So I wanted to go into analytics. So I applied and got a job as business analyst. And I've been working there for about 6 months. Was really enjoying it. When it's what I want to spend the next couple of years of my life doing. But I want to do it properly. So that's when I started looking at other courses that could give me that, I guess, kind of accreditation almost alongside the experience that I'd gained. So found the course with Forever and LSE. I was lucky enough that my employer supported me with a little bit of funding and a little bit of time off work as well, which was really beneficial. And so kind of enrolled in the course, enjoyed it, learned a lot, as I'm sure we'll cover. And then that led to kind of promotions at work at the end, and has definitely made me, I feel much more confident that my CV, for example, for the future it's now got that tick and accreditation that I kind of needed to make that next step.
Fantastic. That's really good to hear, and congratulations. I know that the promotion post completing the program has enabled you to achieve some of your intended career outcomes, and no doubt you have more to come that we'll continue to celebrate. Just on your journey in looking for programs, as many in the audience will certainly be doing as well, how was it that you came across this particular program, and what was it, I guess, that first attracted you to it?
So coming from an engineering background, and being employed at the time, I didn't want to do exams. I knew that. I knew that I don't kind of regurgitate information as well as other people, and that will never, I'll never feel like in an exam I get the same grade as I would in coursework. Yeah. So I really wanted a practical way of learning. And I also wanted something that was easy for me to sell to my employer as, here are the benefits I'm going to get from it, so that I could potentially get some study leave and funding. So when I saw the LSE course, the fact that it had an employer project, it immediately made it easy for me to sell to my employer of, look, Bank of England, working in finance, Bank of England are kind of one of the employers on the project at the time. It kind of talk about relevance. So it made it an easy sell. And I also knew that it would help me with the way I learn and work, actually, achieve the kind of best outcome. So those were the practical element is what really stood out to me compared to a lot of other courses where, you sit an exam and learn how to do a bit of coding, which ultimately you can learn from YouTube. Those kind of practical elements were what I really liked, along with the LSE name to go on the certificate as well.
That's a good point too. You did touch on something there. The practical element for sure, but it's deeper than just learning the technical, as you said. And as I said at the top, we actually have a learning quadrant embedded within the program of the technical, obviously, the business application of that, which I'll ask you about. There's also your personal growth aspects, and the employability aspects makes up that quadrant of 4 learning areas. Tell us, I guess, firstly about the technical, if you can, overlaid with how practical it is and relevant for industry.
So from a pure technical side of kind of learning how to code, in that sense, it was really useful. It was, I think, very well built. If you had no experience, you could learn, and you'd have to put the hours in, but you could pick up and follow, for sure. Whereas even if you've been doing it for a couple of years, I don't think you would have found it that just easy. There were always things that you were learning and having to kind of improve on. But I think the big thing for me was anyone can, do a pivot chart in Excel and turn out some numbers. It's actually how you present that and make people listen. And when I'd started, maybe I was the first business analyst in my workplace. It was a kind of new role, and it was getting people to actually accept a slightly different way of working. And doing the course allowed me to go, okay, so that's the, just that slight change of color, or that adding on that, making it a bit more interactive in that dashboard. The skills that were more kind of personal but also technical were not what made the difference, because that was what allowed me to go and get promotion, was actually not doing necessarily better analysis for work, but making it easier for people to understand and follow, and also more accessible as well. Because ultimately, as an analyst, it's no good having all your analysis if no one else understands it.
Spot on. Could not agree more. You said that really, really well. Analytics for impact within a business context is what it's about. So it is the business application of that technical hand in hand. Oh, that's great. And that's so important for us to be able to provide. It's a 6-month program. You were working full-time, and whilst your employer gave you some grace, I guess, how did you fit it in with your other priorities in life?
So you have to prioritize it, and you have to be willing to prioritize it. It will take up evenings, weekends, especially around assignment times. The employer project, you have to be willing to be flexible. If there were 6 of us in my group, 5 or 6 of us, who were all working full time. So and were situated in different parts of the world. So I know one group we had 1 or 2 people in kind of Europe, 1 or 2 in the UK, and then I think one was over in Australia and New Zealand for a couple of weeks. So it was literally opposite sides of the world. So you have to be willing to, I guess, compromise and say, okay, I do need to wake up or go to bed a bit later today to be able to fit in this group meeting, or fit it in around work, other commitments. It's not an easy course if you're just looking for something that is easy. It's probably not the right thing. But you do definitely learn a lot from it, and it's much more rewarding, I guess, as well when you've worked for it. So I think on average I was probably doing 15 hours a week, but that included a lot more around assignment times, and a bit less maybe at the start of a new course. And you do have a week between each course where you can relax as well. So it's not just full on for 6 months. You have a couple of weeks break.
And you've earned that break each time, haven't you? How is a week structured then? So there's a synchronous component with all students, and then obviously the asynchronous learning where you choose how and when it fits in with your life. But what is a week like, and what are the live sessions entailing?
So I couldn't make every single live session, but I went to as many as I could. The good thing is everything is always recorded as well and available on Canvas, so the kind of system used. So even if you can't make a session, it's not the end of the world. But obviously you want to be there to ask as many questions as you can. The facilitators were really good at responding to emails, and I had 1 or 2 calls as well when I couldn't quite fit in. I always got the impression as long as you were making the effort, and it was obvious you were making the effort, they would have made, you know, a real effort to help you back. It was kind of that, I guess you just have to prove willingness. But yeah, it was very flexible. For example, there's a lot of written content and then some videos and then some practical bits all the way through the course before the final assignment at the end of each module, I guess. The written stuff with my way of learning, I could have read it 100 times and I'd probably never have actually gone into my head. So having the practical side there as well was really useful. And I could go back and read the written sections that I kind of needed to help me with each of those practical sections. But there's a way of learning for everyone there. It's just making sure you're making the most of it, I guess.
Yep.
And knowing how you work.
Excellent. Leaning on the supports for that too. Do you how did you find the support in terms of your success manager? And then after that, I'm certainly going to ask about the coaching. Yeah,
so the success managers were, I would actually say, one of the most useful kind of aspects of the course. Anyone that's studied at university in the UK, I'm sure will kind of know you have very little one-to-one interaction with a lecturer. And to be honest, I was kind of expecting similar when starting, but that's definitely not the case. I know me and my success manager, I knew my success manager, not only knew me by name, but knew what, knew my scenario, the fact I was working, when suited me, the fact that I didn't necessarily need a call every week, but that I would always be in touch if I needed something. And it was much more, I guess, almost grown up way of working, much more mature way of working, more like a workplace than a university in that sense. But was really useful because whenever you did need something that maybe wasn't to your facilitator or lecturer, your success manager was always there and willing and able to help as well. So they were really useful, definitely.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Just a reminder for everyone to pop your questions in the Q&A and we'll get to them. There's some brilliant ones already in there. So I've only got a couple more and we'll get to the audience questions. I guess, how do you feel the program helped you advance your career and especially with your promotion? I think there's a question that's come through that. You said you got promoted after the program. What helped with the promotion? I'll go straight to the one audience question because it was similar to my one. So what impact did the career coaches have on achieving your desired progression?
So the career coaches were really helpful. It was all, again, a proper one-on-one built around what you wanted to achieve. And I knew going into it that I was enjoying where I was working. I'd had the support from them that I wanted to see. So it wasn't that I was, looking to necessarily find a new job. But that meant they were able to help me with some leadership coaching and general career coaching and life skills again, not just rewriting a CV. Although I'm sure if I'd asked for that, that would also have been available. So they were really helpful with that. They were really helpful with giving top tips on how to negotiate a kind of higher salary, a promotion. And I definitely used some of the tactics and language that they kind of recommended in the negotiations. So, it was definitely made it easier. I think as well, one of the biggest things was it was very obvious throughout the course, the things I'd learned, being able to apply it in the workplace, made it very obvious to my managers that actually I was improving. I was able to roll out new dashboards, getting better engagement. being able to prove, the beauty of analytics is you can do analytics on your work and prove it's working. So, I was able to show actually we have a lot more people now using these dashboards than we did before, and so on. So that was also very helpful in getting the promotion. But I think the biggest thing, like I kind of touched on earlier, was actually learning how to present that data. In a workplace, you get some feedback on that, but especially from the employer project where you are presenting to other employers and you get full written detailed from them and your facilitators. You're able to learn so much from a couple of presentations that you can apply in the workplace. And it makes a difference because that's the actual presentation. I guess the one-on-ones you're having with your managers is vastly improved from that.
And their skills, not just for the next role, but you'll use when applying for any role internally or externally in the future as well. So I won't say it's a gift that keeps giving, it's the skills that will continue to provide benefit is a better way of putting that, I guess. I do want to touch on the employer project because you've just provided a great segue to that. For the audience benefit, can you give an overview? And I know there are many projects that we do that are subject to non-disclosure agreements and the like, but as much as you can you give us an overview of what that experience was like, or even who it was with?
Yeah, so mine, I didn't have a NDA for, so I can talk freely. But mine was with ThoughtWorks. So they are a data consultancy company, and we were doing some research using Department for Transport data at how we could potentially improve and reduce traffic around London. So again, it was using real life data for real scenarios, presenting it again as if the changes that we were recommending could actually happen. So it was really applied much more than your standard university kind of course was. So that was really good. Again, I mentioned that we had people from all over the world, which was a real experience. Really interesting to see how different people work as well. And it was you had different ways of running it. So you could either have one person leading your group, or have each person take a different week. But it gave you the opportunity for leadership skills. It wasn't like you were being, really overlooked and restricted. It was free you were given a very broad brief of here's a kind of outcome we want to get to and go get it. So it wasn't, again, just the technical side. It was all of the how do you work with people, how do you organize yourself, how do you organize other people, and also then how do you bring that together and project manage it to a presentation for industry experts. So yeah, it was really beforehand I wasn't actually that excited about it. That was probably my thing, that I was a bit how a university project grows, you're working with other people, sometimes you feel like you're doing all the work. I'm sure everyone's felt that in the past, but this felt very different to all of those.
It's an interesting point that you make. It's for the audience benefit again, it's a more mature it's a more mature demographic of learner aimed at postgraduate. We do have in the minority some career starters starting out their careers in data, but we certainly have the majority of career advances like yourself and career changes. But the actual average age is 30 plus as an average. Majority are UK based, but as you've pointed out, there are learners. Very proudly, we welcome learners from all over the world as well. And the career outcomes are what we celebrate internally. And it's brilliant to see that over 80% achieve their intended career outcome within 3 months of completing the Career Accelerator, along with the coaching aspect of the Career Accelerator. And that's what it's all about for us. Now, there are many that aren't seeking a career change or advancement. They're looking to learn the skills to apply to their new roles or their current roles as well. So that data doesn't include those that aren't seeking a career outcome in particular, although they will certainly gain that in the future. Quick couple of questions that are coming through. Do you feel connected to your fellow learners?
I mean, the employer project, definitely. you do. Up until then, I almost think it's kind of up to you. There's a yellow dig, so kind of community that you can post questions to, that maybe you don't want to go and speak to a facilitator about. It could be just asking for opinions on things. You can be as involved or as uninvolved in that as you want. But I know our cohort was very active on there. So, and then yeah, definitely in the employer project, you're having regular, weekly, sometimes even more frequently than that, online meetings or in-person meetings if possible.
Great.
With them. So, and I know I've got everyone that was in my group, I've got on LinkedIn and have seen what they've gone on to do post the course as well. So,
That's brilliant. For the audience benefit again, there will be the opportunity, having recently been approved by LSE, to undertake an additional capstone project or academic dissertation from next year, to also include this as then a postgraduate certificate qualification. Currently, it's a certification from LSE, and it's been approved and is in development shortly to upgrade that to a qualification with an additional capstone opportunity at the end. Another change that has been made to the program that you've seen the benefit of, or about to, you've been invited to, is the addition of AI into the program. So it's a really important point for everyone to know, I guess, because it is so relevant and topical. But we've taken a really innovative pathway towards the inclusion of AI, in that we know how quickly it is changing. And I think if you're looking at programs, you've got to question anything that's over 12 or 18 months now to understand the relevance thereof. But what we've decided to do is recruit often globally recognized leaders of AI in data to facilitate live workshops for learners and alumni. And the thinking behind that is there'll be 4 throughout the program, and each one will focus on a different topical area of inclusion of AI, ChatGPT, and other tools. But that way we ensure that it is absolutely to the day, up to date with industry expectations, and not designed 6 months ago and that's all changed and things like that. It's the most agile way of including AI into the program, we feel. So learners will certainly access that, not only as learners on the program, but as alumni as well. And Sam thankfully has posted a little link, a little bit of an overview of that in the chat. I'm going to get to some more questions from the audience, and I'd like to start with Charlene's, because thank you, Charlene. We're very proud also, for Charlene's benefit and others, that we have close to a 50% gender ratio in the program, where we're so proud of that, women in tech and the like, because it's so much higher than the industry average. But Charlene asks, what's the duration of the program? So yours was 6 months,
Yep.
excluding the onboarding process, which is somewhat comprehensive, but I assume valuable in setting up to succeed in the program.
Yeah, it was a nice way to ease in as well, and get used to, okay, when can I take, a little bit of time from work? When can't I? Without actually necessarily missing content, I guess. It also helps, I guess, with people that maybe haven't quite figured out their best way of working. It gives them a bit of time to speak to success managers and try and figure that out before the course starts, because when it starts, you don't want to get behind. Obviously, you've then got to spend longer catching up.
Yep. And it includes quite a rigorous goal-setting process to help with the coaching and help you define what the best return on your educational investment is as well. Someone's asked here, when is the next intake? I'll answer that one if that's okay. 8th of July commences the next intake commences. We'll accept applications up until or around that date, depending on capacity. We do cap the numbers that we take onto the program. And the reason for that is, even though we could open it up to a few hundred people, we cap the numbers because of 2 reasons. We've got coaching constraints and capacity, as you can imagine. When you have one-on-one coaching sessions monthly over a 6-month period, That's a lot of coaching capacity that we need. We certainly have that, but we couldn't do it for 300 people at a time. And secondly, and probably more importantly, if we did open it up for that many people per presentation, we felt that your roles and responsibilities within the industry project would be impacted by that. If you've got 20 people on a project, it's completely unrealistic. So to ensure that the project remains relevant and your responsibilities and opportunities within that project are sound, hence the numbers are capped. So that's when the next intake commences. There would be one more intake this year in late September, early October from memory. Getting on to some other questions. Someone's asked here of you, Joel, is the cost of the program worth it?
For me, the answer was yes. The promotion I got, especially when you're compounding that over a couple of years, it definitely made sense. Obviously, that will vary on what you're starting on now, before the course, where you think you can get to afterwards. That's a kind of individual thing. But yeah, for me, it was a no-brainer.
Yep. We pride ourselves in offering, I think, the greatest value for money in the sense that it's LSE backed and industry recognised in both their reputation, but also the content co-designed by industry, the relevance of the content, and also obviously the coaching program that goes with that. I think I know who asked this question, but they've chosen to list it as anonymous. But is Power BI one of the tools we will learn? I'm going to say something about that in a moment, but Joel, did you learn Power BI in the program?
So we didn't use a huge amount of Power BI, but we did use Tableau. So we submitted an assignment on there. I use Power BI all day, every day at work, and we don't use Tableau at work because of costs. And the course is still giving me those benefits. So because everything is completely interchangeable, sure, it's a slightly different language, but actually that's the easy bit to pick up. So so just because there isn't a module that specifically says Power BI, don't let that put you off. It's the skill set you learn which is the important bit, rather than the really specific what exact software you're using, because that will change throughout your career anyway.
That's a really good point, to have the workplace adaptation of Power BI for one's benefit, yet the learning of Tableau only enhances your employability down the track, having both. It is easily crossed over, as you've articulated. But I must say, we partnered with Tableau very early on in the design of the content process, and they've been fantastic as a partner. So don't fret. I won't say your name because you chose to put that anonymously. Don't fret. You might be using Power BI at work now. The skills will cross over really quickly. And if you need a little brush up, there's a million free courses or YouTube clips that will certainly enable you to pick that up really, really quickly. Someone else has asked, what did you learn here that you couldn't at uni? You are at uni, first and foremost. It is a LSE course. But Joel, would you be happy to, I guess, you touched on it earlier as well, but any other insights that you feel the audience may benefit from understanding the difference maybe with a traditional uni course?
I think the big one is slightly more mature way of learning. I mean, I'm quite a bit under the average age that was mentioned earlier, and it still felt like the right thing for me to do. And yeah, it's the employability skills that I think are the really big ones. I felt more employable after the 6-month course at LSE than I did after 3 years at uni. Even if, you could argue that uni, I learned more technical stuff or whatever. I think it's that employability side, which is the focus, and makes the difference day to day, as well at work.
Exactly. A couple more questions to get through. I want to thank everyone for putting their questions in. I might answer this one. There is a lot of job opportunity for data analysts out there. I want to upskill, but I'm worried that this might be a bad idea. Is there a lot of job opportunity? Sorry. Yes, in short. I think of all the roles within the digital economy currently, there's a few that certainly stand out for the volume of opportunities, but the ongoing need, and data is probably at the top of the pile, in our opinion. And that's certainly based on the evidence and research we did a number of years ago when designing the program, but is still true now with companies making their transition to data-focused business decisions and the like. Many organisations are only in their infancy or not even utilising data still. The pace of change, someone much wiser than me said this recently, and I did say it in my last webinar I hosted, they said the pace of change has never been this quick, yet it will never be this slow, and most of that is surrounding data and technology behind it. So don't also think that it's just an analyst role that you will be able to confidently apply for as well. There are a myriad of data aligned roles that we would certainly have the proficiency and confidence to apply for, ranging from even sales and marketing analyst, business analyst, as Joel was previously, all sorts of different roles that the skill set certainly applies for. Anything you feel you can add there, Joel?
I mean, I think I asked the same question before I started, and for me, it was, with the introduction of AI as it is, job roles are going to change, and we don't know what that necessarily means over the course of my career. I have no idea what I'll be doing in 50 years' time, but I know that if I can use the technology and use the AI and be an implementer of that, it's not going to be my job at risk. And I guess that's, if you can know how to interpret data, you can deal with AI. So I think it actually future-proofs quite well. I definitely like to think so. But ultimately, as far as the next planning, the rest of your careers go, no one really knows what's going to happen. So it's probably a pretty safe bet. Would be
Couldn't agree more. My hair, I'll let you in on a secret. My hair dictates that I'm old enough to remember the introduction of, even though I was at school at the time, of Microsoft Windows packages and so forth, and that included the introduction of Excel. And I remember my parents in their business saying things like, this is the death of accountancy. All these types of things where certainly the technology is different now than that. However, you articulated that really, really well. If you are one of the ones that can have the underpinnings that then enable the embracing of that change in that technology, you'll be one of the ones that are future-proofed for sure as well. I'm conscious of time, and I'm going to get through a few more of the questions. I think you've answered this, Joel, but I'll ask it anyway, just before I do. I know this course is online, but how did you stay connected with fellow learners?
So yeah, it's a lot of online Google Meets and Zooms, online seminars, so on. Ultimately, that's kind of if you want the broad way of learning, and something that can be flexible, that is the way it tends to be now. But ultimately, all the tools are there as well to allow that. So like I mentioned, we kind of have the Yellow Dig site forums allowing for people to ask questions of each other, as well as other cohorts that are maybe a stage or two ahead or behind. Canvas, the online system, again, was really good. And you have such regular meetings with your facilitators and success managers and career coaches that actually it's almost harder to keep up with the meetings than it is to feel like not connected.
It's another reflection of real business life, isn't it? Yeah. A couple more. Let's. Someone's asked, who are the faculty members? So when did you finish your Career Accelerator, Joel?
So I was part of April 23 cohort start date. So I think after the introduction and the 6 months, it was sometime before Christmas. Yeah, it must have been about October, November.
And did you attend the graduation ceremony at LSE?
I couldn't make it, unfortunately. No. Yeah, I'd have loved to, but I couldn't make it.
Someone's asked who are the faculty members. So it's headed up by Dr. James Abdi, and I asked that specific question, Joel, because he is instrumental in not only the design of the content along with his department. He's also filmed extensively, contributing his thoughts, and he's a globally recognised leader in the field. But at the events that we host at LSE for graduates, he gives the most inspiring speeches. He's so passionate about the program. So there's a link to James's profile there. Dr. Christine Yuen, Dr. Milena Cheskova, Dr. Blake Miller, and Dr. Milton Maravakakis are also members of the faculty that have contributed and will host masterclasses and the like along the way. The industry facilitators are the ones that host those weekly ones. A couple of other questions. Who is the employer project with this year? We have numerous employer projects. We always try and provide a variety. I can confirm that Bank of England are confirmed for this upcoming presentation, which will be early next year or so, for the industry project, amongst others. We try and provide a diverse range of projects, be they non-government, be they consultancies that work with all sorts, like you experienced, Joel, with ThoughtWorks and others, even NGOs and the like. How relevant does the program stay? Really, really relevant, I'd suggest, because number one, the content is ever changing and evolving according to industry requirements. Secondly, we adapt, as I mentioned, also new technologies such as generative AI, ChatGPT, and others in the form of those really practical workshops that you will access for life now, as a graduate, or firstly as a learner, then like Joel as a graduate, because they will add a great deal of value to what is most topical on an up-to-date basis. It's hard because we could certainly have the choice of embedding it within the content, but it changes so quickly, it might become outdated quickly. Those live sessions where you will have practical learning outcomes and tasks to do during those workshops as well will provide you the practical hands-on experience with that new technology, hence keeping the program up to date in an ever-changing world. What are the admission requirements? Excellent question. So the admission requirements are also that you have completed a bachelor degree, because it is aimed at postgraduate level, but that bachelor degree should also contain a quantitative unit of study. If you're unsure, so it requires the bachelor degree in quantitative units containing at least a unit of quantitative study. A discussion with your enrolment advisor is most recommended, because there are other entry points as well, given, for example, if you've got professional experience relating to data and others, but there is also an aptitude test if required as well. Joel, what was your experience with your enrolment advisor like at the time?
Very smooth. Yeah, I almost don't remember too much about it because it was quite quick and seemed quite easy at the time. So yeah, I think I started submitting a form and a CV. I had a call with maybe one or two calls, and then I also went on one of these Ask Me Anything. So this is my second one. And then, yeah, after that, kind of spoke to work about, how they could potentially help support, and then kind of enrolled at the next available start date.
That's excellent. If you need any assistance in maybe even compiling some dot points around employer support, your enrolment advisor can provide that. It only takes 10 minutes to apply. Sam's kindly put a link in the chat function now regarding the process. It's just uploading your CV and your academic transcripts, as well as your identity. Your enrolment advisor, if you haven't spoken to them already, will then reach out to you to have a discussion and just discuss your intended outcomes. They'll have a very empathetic approach to your decision, knowing that it is a big investment of time and finances, with the reward being gaining and understanding first and demonstrating how you can proceed towards or progress towards your intended career outcome in a accelerated fashion, if I can term it that way. I think that's about it for the questions. I'm just going to double check if there are any more. Joel, I've got one more for you, I guess. And that is, do you have any top tips for people that are considering the data analytics career accelerator with LSE?
I'd say make sure you are committed, because it does take commitment. As long as you're committed, then and you'll enjoy it. So just make sure you're making most of all of the career coaches, the success managers, the content, the practical side of things, the employer project, all the time that you're putting the effort in. I feel like you get a very good return. So it's just make sure you're committed.
That's a really, really good point. There is sacrifice. It's an intensive program over 6 months. I recommend people always engage with those around them about the decision, be it family or colleagues or friends, that sometimes you're going to have to say no to starting a Netflix series with your partner because you've got a bit more study or a bit less free time over the next 6 months, or not going out for drinks on a Friday because you've got a submission due on a Saturday. They're the little things that are well worth sacrificing in order to ensure that you accelerate your career and achieve your outcomes. And I think that's a really, really good thing to end on, Joel, is once you do make a decision, like you have done today in the audience, to educate further yourself about the options available to you. The next step is making a commitment. Now, that commitment might be having those discussions. It could be booking a time with your enrolment advisor, or hopefully it's submitting an application and then reaping the rewards of that as well. Great one to end on, Joel. Commitment. You've certainly committed, and you're reaping the rewards of that. I'd like to thank you. Your contribution today has been really insightful for me, and no doubt for those in attendance. So thank you ever so kindly.
Thank you.
For everyone else, click a link in the chat. Reach out to me on LinkedIn if you require me to answer any questions that you may have. But you're in great hands with a really professional team of advisors, as I said, that will take a very empathetic view and assist you in any way that they can, compiling a very successful application to LSE. Thank you all. Have a great weekend, and here's to yours in lifelong learning. Well done all. Cheerio. And thanks, Sam. I forgot to thank Sam in the background. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Joel.